Hello everyone, we're back today with a new video where we're going to transform the walls of this bathroom into a dark style. So future bathroom, because it's not finished yet. By the way, if you haven't seen the previous episodes, don't worry, there's a playlist linked in the description with all the previous episodes. From the demolition up to this episode where I spread some chocolate spread without palm oil and without calories. At first I was planning to put down polished concrete, plus a protective layer, a protective varnish, and then I thought that with some smoothing plaster and dye, I could fool everyone. We'll use a roller to apply sealer and varnish just like a skim coat so no one will notice anything. For a wall that's ready to paint, except it'll already be tinted, I would just have to apply my sealer and varnish. So is it a good or bad idea? Will tinted plaster replace polished concrete? The answer right away. The taping is finished. I've applied 2 plaster coats and the third will be the final skim coat. On this panel behind me and at the entrance with the switch, I have an 80 centimeter panel. Everything else around the bathtub and shower will be tiled. I'm going to plaster the panels and tint the plaster a very dark gray, anthracite or black. But it's pretty tricky to measure because here you see the dye is here. You can use it to tint paint, tint plaster, whatever you want. You'd need a really precise scale to tint it. If you have 50 cans to tint, you'll need the same dosage each time. But for just 3 or 4 cans, the best way to get a consistent dosage and shade is to mix them all together. In a large basin, you empty the cans, you put your dye in, you mix it all together, and once you have a uniform shade. With your 4, 5, 6, or even 10 cans of coating, put everything back into the cans and clean them thoroughly, since any leftover white coating will mix with the tinted coating. You just colored it, so I have 1 can and we'll make another for 2 coats. I've masked everything. Why? Mask everything? Because the ceiling has already been coated, I don't want to get it dirty. The floor, if you put your roller directly on the floor, you'll pick up little stones and dirt. If you're on a screed, you'll get them in the coating, causing a big streak when smoothing it. Here, I'm working on panels, not a screed, on Cara. It's the previous episode or the one before that, I don't remember, but anyway, I've covered everything here. It's very important to work in a clean environment. So I've also filled in all the screw heads. You can see them. I made big patches everywhere and it's very important to fill in the screw heads. Running your hand over the board lets you feel its imperfections, bumps and scratches. Because with a sheet of drywall, you might think, oh, you can just apply compound or paint directly on it, but that's not true because a sheet of drywall is full of imperfections. Between storage, transport and handling, it's bound to get scratched or damaged. If you notice anything, just fix it with a spatula and compound. That's why it looks messy here. There's compound everywhere, but I've covered all the imperfections and screw heads to prevent shrinkage. So, what is shrinkage? It's when you fill in your screw heads and come back the next day and they're not filled anymore. Depending on the brand of compound, and if the compound is more fluid, you'll definitely get some shrinkage. You may need a second or even third coat. Earlier, I mentioned using a small roller for taping. Well, this time, we'll use the same thing, but wider, which is 180 millimeter wide, and I think there's even a 250 millimeter one if I'm not mistaken. So it's still nylon bristles. Dip it in the plaster, brush it on the wall, then spread it as evenly as possible. You'll notice it resembles stucco. Next, we use the 40 cm smoothing blade. Larger sizes include 60-80 and 1.20 meters, as well as smaller options. Choose the size that suits you, but as I mentioned, 40 works everywhere. Just smooth it out. Don't remove any plaster, just smooth it. So we're going to hold it as flat as possible and smooth out the plaster that's formed with the roller. That's all we have to do. So it's pretty simple to do and quite satisfying. You can practice on an old wall, in an old room, an old laundry room, it doesn't matter. And you'll see that it's pretty simple once you get the hang of it. Why am I not painting or priming my drywall before plastering? Because it's pointless. I've thoroughly dusted my drywall to apply plaster directly. If I start painting my drywall, first, it can seal the surface. If it's a primer, that's fine, but honestly, it's unnecessary. Plaster can be applied directly. When you do your joint tapes, you don't paint the tapes, you don't put primer on the tapes, you apply plaster directly and it holds. Well, it's the same thing. For skim coating, there's no need to paint the drywall, especially if it's new. And for the plaster, I'm going to use Sofec Expert Lisse, a skim coat, filling and smoothing compound. It spreads by itself and smooths out really well. Here's how much compound remains on the blade versus what I loaded with the roller. There's not much left. Once it's smooth, clean the blade. It's important to clean before smoothing again. All right, for the first coat, it's done. I'm satisfied with the color. It's a fairly dark gray, and with the lighting at 3000K, it leans toward a warmer shade. You can see the halo from the spotlight here. Lighting at 4000K or 6000K will be very cold and affect the shade, but I'm satisfied for now. It's ultra matte. And the advantage of the coating is that there are no touch-ups and you don't get the roller marks. So I didn't sand it. We'll sand it for the second coat once it's dry, but for now I just used a spatula. You can see here there are marks everywhere. I had little bits of coating or hairs. Here we have roller hairs, so obviously on this panel I had more hairs than here because I started on this panel and then it goes away. Do you get the hairs? And for the first coat I didn't make things complicated. A swipe with the spatula, it comes off. Here, around the edges, just use the spatula, it's the same. I redid the masking, which is very important. Make sure to change the masking on the floor as well and on the ceiling, that's very important. If you roll over dry plaster and it comes off, it'll make a mess and be a hassle. For the smoothing, remember to change the masking so everything is protected, the plaster. I'm not using this can again, I'm using the can, the second can I made, so it's more or less the same shade. I use the same mix. Why not use this can again? If I start with it, I might have to stop. I'll just use the new can. I prefer having the same shade, so when I'm done, I just pour one can into the other. It doesn't matter which. I mix everything, so I'll have an extra can that's about half full to use for something else. Doing stripes, raking, repainting over it, whatever, or coating a part of the wall, and it will be this color. Okay, so we take the roller, dip it, brush it on, and smooth it out. So for the second coat, it's done. It had time to dry well, at least 24 hours, and if you wait 3-4 days, that's ideal. So now that it's dried well, we can sand it. When I say sand, I really mean go very gently, at a slow speed, and with 240 grit, so 240 grit or 320 grit, or even 400 if you want. The goal is to smooth the spatula marks without removing filler, as stripping it would expose the plasterboard. We smooth out the spatula marks and any lumps or fibers in the filler. I had fewer roller fibers on the second coat since most appeared during the first. The new roller worked fine for the second coat. We used the vacuum cleaner because otherwise it's going to fly everywhere, and you'll see that with the vacuum cleaner there's zero dust. However, on the wall, of course, there will still be some dust. I'll get dust on my hand if I touch it, so I need to vacuum it thoroughly, once, twice, or as many times as needed, then check by running my hand over it. There shouldn't be anything left. That's not good enough for me. I have marks, rings, little white spots that show up in some places, so it's probably because of all that. Plaster layers, tape, screw heads, first and second coats with the roller, then sanding. Obviously, you remove some material in certain spots, maybe because I put less in one place than another, whatever. So I have nothing to complain about with the plaster. It's perfect, it did its job, it smooths out really well. It's a smoothing plaster, it's basically a filling plaster. It's made for skim coating, it's not a decorative plaster. I wanted to do things differently and tell myself at least I could skip that step. Polish concrete, I thought I could apply my pour filler and my varnish directly, and in the end, if I apply the pour filler and varnish directly, I'm going to have marks everywhere. It'll look worse than a badly painted wall, so using pour filler and varnish is a waste of time. I'll just leave it as is. The positive thing is that now at least it's ready to receive a polished concrete or maybe a decorative coating, why not? Not tiles because it's perfect for skim coating now. It doesn't need to be uniform everywhere and we don't mind small marks. The goal is to fix all flaws and now you can't see the seams or anything, so it's perfect. I think the result is achievable. You don't need to sand if you use a smoothing compound and don't want a decorative coating. You can smooth it with a spatula or even a roller. Apply the first coat, a second if needed to hide flaws, and use a spatula for the third coat. Just like polished concrete actually, with a small stainless steel trowel, and that can work, but you shouldn't sand. Sanding will definitely create spots, marks. In short, it's a disaster. Let's move forward. With my wife, we chose our tiles. We made up our minds because I told her, hey, come take a look. What do you think? Yes, no, it doesn't work. Just like for me, it didn't work and we really thought it through. We'll also tile the back wall as we decided and planned this long ago. We're also going to do the ceiling in a dark color, so when you walk into the bathroom, we'll have this dark wall, the little section with the light switch, and the ceiling and the back wall, that's too much. So we're going to tile that one, and it will break up the dark effect when you walk into the bathroom. Okay, so to tell you everything, we already have the tiles. They're extra large tiles. You'll see that in a future episode. Same for the floor with very large 90 cm tiles. In the meantime, I did a test with some plaster that I haven't sanded yet. The varnish, and then the pour filler. You'll see, I'll film it for you, I'll explain it to you, but once again, the result could be there. It might work, but don't sand it. Okay, I have a test on this panel. Since I still need to veneer it and it will be the back of the closet, the drywall won't be visible. Here, I used the same filler but didn't sand it. I applied a coat of sealer, then varnish, but underneath it's the same. Except that I didn't put the sealer, I varnished directly on the filler, and you can see it leaves a lot of marks, so the sealer is this one and the varnish. You'll find the links in the description, but the result is perfect if you don't sand. And so, as I told you, you would need a decorative filler instead of a smoothing filler to get a similar result, or you shouldn't sand the smoothing filler. Now that I have my tiles, we can move forward with the mixers, install them, connect them to the hot and cold water, and for the shower, I also have a rain shower head to connect. Then we'll close it with plasterboard, and once that's done, we'll complete the waterproofing. This step is very important. We'll talk about it again, and once that's done, of course, the tiles go in. We paint the ceiling, install the cabinet, the mirror, and I can take my bath. So, I really want to thank you for watching this video, and we'll see each other again very soon. In the meantime, take care and see you very soon.